You will never be respected if you can't control your emotions. Let that sink in for a moment. Respect is not given freely. It is earned slowly, sometimes painfully, over time. Yet it can be destroyed in an instant, often not by what you did wrong, but by how you reacted when emotions took over. You could spend years building a reputation and lose it in 10 seconds of uncontrolled anger, panic, or frustration. Picture this. You're in a meeting room. The air is thick with anticipation. You've worked for months on a project, sacrificed weekends, stayed up late perfecting every detail. Then out of nowhere, someone on your team casually questions your idea. It's not even a harsh comment, just a small, sarcastic remark. But it hits you like a spark to dry wood. Without thinking, you fire back. Your tone sharpens, your voice rises, and all eyes turn to you. In that moment, it's not your intelligence they see, not your hard work, not your dedication. They see a person who has lost control, and that image burns into their memory. This is the brutal truth about respect. People don't only remember what you say, they remember how you said it, when you said it, and why. Emotional outbursts, even when justified, rarely make you look strong. Instead, they make you appear unstable, reactive, and unsafe to trust in high-pressure situations. Here's where it gets more unsettling. This isn't just about work. It's about your relationships, your family, even strangers you meet for the first time. One slip, one uncontrolled emotional reaction, and you silently told the world, I cannot be trusted to handle myself when it matters. And trust, once broken, is far harder to rebuild than it was earned in the first place. Why is this so critical? Because emotional control is power. When you keep your emotions in check, you dictate the direction of a situation. When you lose control, you hand that power to someone else. They get to decide how you are perceived. They get to define your image. And often, the people around you, whether consciously or subconsciously, will start to see you through the lens of that one moment. Respect is not about being emotionless. It's not about suppressing feelings until you become cold or detached. It's about choosing when and how to express them, so they serve your purpose rather than sabotage it. Controlled emotion can inspire, persuade, and influence. Uncontrolled emotion can destroy careers, friendships, and even self-respect. If you take nothing else from this, take this. Every time you are about to react in the heat of the moment, you are standing at a crossroads. One path leads to lasting respect. The other leads to silent judgment. And people rarely tell you to your face which path you've chosen. They simply adjust the way they treat you from that day forward. This is why mastering emotional control is not just a skill, it's survival. Here's something no one will tell you to your face. Every time you interact with someone, you are being tested. Not openly, not formally, but quietly, through the tiny details of your behavior. And one of the biggest things people are subconsciously measuring is your ability to control your emotions. Think about it. When you meet someone new, whether it's a colleague, a neighbor, or a stranger, you don't yet know their history, their skills, or their intelligence. But within minutes, you can usually sense if they are calm under pressure or quick to snap. That first impression isn't just about politeness. It's about trust and predictability. People feel safe around those who don't explode, panic, or lash out when things go wrong. Now flip the perspective. Imagine you are the one being observed. The person in front of you might be a potential employer, a client, or even a future friend. They're listening to your words, but they're also watching your eyes, your posture, your breathing. The moment you get defensive, the moment you raise your voice, the moment you let frustration spill into your tone, they take mental notes. They won't write them down. They won't confront you, but they will remember. This silent evaluation is constant in life. At work, people test you by how you handle criticism. In relationships, they test you by how you react to disappointment. Even strangers test you in moments of tension, like when someone cuts you off in traffic or skips ahead of you in line. These aren't random events. They're opportunities for the world to see who you really are when your emotions are triggered. And here's the unsettling part. Most of the time, you don't even realize you've been tested until after you failed. You replay the moment in your head later, wishing you'd stayed calmer, wishing you'd taken a deep breath, wishing you hadn't given them the satisfaction of seeing you lose control. But by then, the damage is done. Why do people do this? Because emotional control is seen as a sign of maturity, discipline, and leadership. If you can stay composed when others will crumble, you signal strength. But if you lose your grip over minor provocations, people start questioning your stability. They might not even do it consciously, but deep down, they'll see you as someone they can't fully depend on when things get hard. This is the invisible test of life. Can you keep your emotions in check when provoked? Can you absorb the sting of criticism without firing back? Can you face unfairness without letting it pull you into chaos? Pass this test consistently, and respect follows you like a shadow. Fail it, and you'll find that shadow replaced with doubt, and doubt spreads fast. The truth is, every interaction is a stage. Whether you like it or not, you are performing, and the audience, they are watching for the one slip that reveals the truth about you. If there's one thing manipulators, critics, and even casual observers love, it's seeing you lose control. Because the moment your emotions take over, you give them exactly what they need, power over you. It starts small. Someone makes a sarcastic comment about your work. A friend casually mentions something hurtful. A colleague questions your competence in front of others. These moments are rarely accidents. Sometimes they are carefully designed to trigger you. Why? Because your reaction reveals your weaknesses faster than any conversation could. When you explode in anger, people stop listening to your point and start judging your tone. When you show visible frustration, they see where your pressure points are, and when you let sadness or embarrassment take over, they know exactly what buttons to push next time. You've just given them the blueprint to control you. The trap is simple. The more you react, the less respect you command. Think about leaders, mentors, or people you admire. Do they panic at the first sign of trouble? Do they throw public tantrums when criticized? No, their power comes from stillness in the storm. They decide when and how to respond, not the other way around. Here's where the danger grows deeper. Emotional reactions don't just affect how others see you. They affect the actual outcome of situations. When you lose control, you make rash decisions. You send the angry email you regret. You slam the door instead of making your point. You walk away when you should have stayed and negotiated. In these moments, your emotions aren't just hurting your image, they're sabotaging your future. And people know this. That's why in workplaces, some colleagues will push your limits to make you slip up in front of the boss. In relationships, partners in conflict may provoke you just to later say, "See, you're the problem." Even strangers can exploit your reactions. Think of scammers or con artists who pressure you into acting impulsively. The truly dangerous part? The trap feels personal when it's happening. Your mind tells you, they're disrespecting me. I have to respond right now. But in reality, you're stepping exactly where they want you to, into the open, defenseless, exposed. So how do you avoid it? By understanding that every emotional outburst costs you something. Your reputation, your trustworthiness, your influence. When you pause before reacting, you take away the other person's control over you. You keep the power in your hands. The greatest psychological advantage is making others unsure of how you'll respond. When people can't predict your emotions, they can't manipulate them. The moment you become unreadable, you become untouchable. Remember this. Every person who provokes you is giving you a choice. Take the bait or take the power. Most people choose the bait. The few who choose power, they're the ones who get respected. When most people think of strength, they imagine loudness, speaking up, arguing back, making their point heard. But in the psychology of power, the opposite is often true. Silence can be sharper than words, heavier than threats, and more dangerous than open conflict. Here's the truth. The human mind hates uncertainty. When you go silent in a moment when they expect you to explode, you create a void, and that void fills their imagination with fear, doubt, and self-questioning. They begin to wonder, did I go too far? What are they thinking? What are they planning? You're no longer just a person they tried to provoke. You're an unpredictable force. Think about it. If someone insults you and you immediately fire back, they know exactly where you stand. The exchange is over. But if you look them in the eye, hold your ground, and say nothing, the power shifts. They lose control of the narrative. The game is no longer theirs to play. This doesn't mean silence is about passivity. No, silence is a choice. It's the conscious decision to pause, observe, and calculate before speaking. You're not ignoring the moment. You're studying it. You're gathering every piece of information, their tone, their body language, their true intentions. And when you finally speak, your word will be precise and devastating because they're backed by thought, not impulse. History and leadership psychology show this pattern repeatedly. The most respected negotiators rarely speak first. The most feared generals in history didn't reveal their plans until the moment of attack. Even in interpersonal relationships, the person who remains calm under provocation sets the tone for the interaction. But here's the deeper psychological layer. Silence doesn't just disarm the other person, it strengthens you. Every time you resist the urge to react immediately, you train your brain to process emotions without letting them dictate your actions. This is emotional discipline at its highest level. Of course, silence isn't always easy. Your instincts will scream at you to defend yourself, to explain, to prove them wrong. But that's exactly why silence works, because it's unexpected. In a world addicted to noise, calm restraint stands out. People remember it, and they respect it. There's also a subtle intimidation factor. A person who can stay silent in the face of provocation communicates one powerful message. You can't control me. That message echoes far louder than any raised voice ever could. The danger for many is confusing silence with weakness. Weak silence comes from fear, avoiding conflict entirely. Powerful silence comes from control, knowing you could speak, but choosing not to yet. And when the moment comes to finally break that silence, your words will land like a hammer. The next time someone tries to pull you into an emotional trap, try this. Breathe, pause, and say nothing. Watch how quickly the dynamic shifts. In that moment, you're not just avoiding a reaction. You're showing them that your emotions are yours alone, and no one else is to command. If silence is the weapon they don't see, a calculated response is a precision strike they never recover from. In psychology, timing is as important as the message itself. Say something too soon and you sound impulsive. Wait too long and you lose the moment. But speak at the exact right time, with the exact right words, and you can shift the entire balance of power. When you control your emotions, you control your delivery. Instead of reacting to their energy, you set your own pace. You're no longer playing defense. You're playing chess, thinking 3 moves ahead. You're not just answering them. You're influencing how they see you and how others see the entire situation. Here's why it works. Most people listen to reply, not understand. They are waiting for their turn to speak, not processing what you're actually saying. But a calculated response flips that script. When you pause before speaking, you signal that your words have weight. You force them to listen, because they know whatever you're about to say is deliberate. In moment of conflict, your calculated response does something their anger can't. It sticks. Impulsive words fade because they're tied to fleeting emotions. Strategic words endure because they carry intent. And intent is remembered. Think of a skilled negotiator. They don't blurt out their terms. They wait for the right leverage, the perfect opening, and then deliver their conditions with calm authority. Or imagine a debate where one side is shouting and frantic, while the other speaks slowly, clearly, and only when necessary. Who looks more in control? Who wins the room's respect? The key here is precision. A calculated response isn't about saying a lot. It's about saying exactly what needs to be said, no more, no less. Each word is chosen with purpose. You're not explaining yourself to win approval. You're making statements that shape perception. And there's an underlying psychological principle at play: scarcity. The less you speak in moments of tension, the more valuable your words become. People start paying attention because they know you don't waste your voice on every minor provocation. When you finally do speak, they lean in because they know it matters. But there's a warning here. Calculated responses require patience. Your emotions will tempt you to jump in immediately, to correct the other person, to defend yourself. Resist that urge. Every extra second you wait before speaking is a second you're gathering clarity and ensuring your response will hit with impact rather than get lost in noise. When you finally deliver your response, Do it with composure. No raised voice, no frantic gestures, just steady, unshakable presence. That's when the room shifts. That's when they realize they can't pull you into their chaos, and instead, they have it operate on your terms. Remember this. Respect isn't earned by winning every argument. It's earned by showing that you're in control when it matters most. A calculated response proves one thing beyond doubt. You are not at the mercy of your emotions, and that makes you dangerous in the best possible way. If controlling your emotions is a foundation of respect. Detachment is the fortress that protects it. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop being controlled by what you care about. It's the mental ability to see the situation as it is, not as your feelings paint it. Psychologists call this emotional distancing, a state where you can observe events without being consumed by them. It's the skill of stepping outside yourself and seeing the bigger picture. While everyone else is stuck drowning in the moment, why is detachment so powerful? Because a person who needs nothing controls everything. When you're emotionally attached to an outcome, whether it's winning an argument, gaining approval, or proving someone wrong, you become predictable. People can push your buttons, and they know exactly how you react. But when you're detached, there are no buttons to push. They try to provoke you, and you simply don't move. That's when they realize they've lost control. Detachment transforms you from participant in chaos to an observer of it. Imagine two people fighting in a storm. They're exhausted, shouting over the wind, struggling just to stay upright. Now, picture you standing on the shore, watching the storm, dry and calm. That's the psychological advantage of detachment. You're not fighting the waves. You're choosing if and when to step in. It also protects your reputation. In the heat of the moment, people say things they regret, things that can't be unsaid. Detachment gives you space to choose your words and actions with surgical precision. While others look foolish, desperate, or out of control, you remain composed, and that composure is what people remember long after the moment has passed. There's a deep human instinct at play here. People are drawn to those who seem unshakable. Detachment projects quiet strength, and quiet strength commands respect. You're telling the world, I am not owned by circumstances. I am not ruled by emotions. I am in control. But here's the paradox. You can only truly detach when you trust yourself. If you fear losing, fear being misunderstood, or fear what others think, you'll cling to control with emotional intensity. That intensity makes you vulnerable. True detachment comes when you accept that you can survive any outcome. Once you realize that, you stop chasing, stop forcing, stop overreacting. And ironically, that's when the outcomes you want to start gravitating toward you. Detachment also neutralizes manipulators. Their power depends on your emotional investment. They feed on your need to explain, defend, or prove yourself. The moment you stop giving them that energy, they're left with nothing to work with. It's psychological starvation, quiet and invisible, but devastatingly effective. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, don't rush to prove them wrong. Don't fight to win. Instead, take a step back, observe, decide, not react. Because when you're detached, you're untouchable. And an untouchable person commands a respect that no amount of shouting, convincing, or pleading could ever earn. At the end of this journey, you'll realize something profound. The people who are truly respected never have to ask for it, never have to demand it, never have to fight for it. Respect flows to them naturally, like water finding its level, because of who they have become. This is where mastery begins. Mastery over your emotions, your reactions, and most importantly, your presence. You no longer operate on impulse. You operate on intention. You speak when there's something worth saying. You move when there's a purpose worth pursuing. Every word, every gesture carries weight. Not because you're trying to be impressive, but because you've learned the art of restraint. Psychologists call this self-possessed authority. It's the quiet yet unmistakable aura of someone who governs themselves so completely that others can't help but trust them. Your presence alone changes the energy of a room. Not because you're loud, but because you're unshakable. Here's the secret. People respect consistency more than charisma. Charisma may attract them at first, but consistency keeps them there. When you can be counted on to remain stable in chaos, rational in conflict, and calm in uncertainty, you become a pillar in other people's minds. And human nature is drawn to pillars. We lean on them, we follow them, we protect them, because we know they won't collapse. This step is also about invisibility, not physical invisibility, but emotional invisibility in battle. You don't reveal your frustrations to those who might use them against you. You don't announce every victory. You let it be known through your results. You don't show every wound. You let your silence do the healing. Your calm is no longer a strategy. It's who you are. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing respect, you finally have it. Because the act of chasing implies lack, and lack signals weakness. But when you embody self-control so fully that others can't imagine you losing it, you project power effortlessly. Respect also deepens when you choose your battles. Most people waste energy trying to win every argument, every confrontation, every petty exchange. But the master knows not all fights are worth fighting. When you walk away from nonsense, people notice. They realize you're playing a bigger game, and suddenly their view of you changes. You're no longer just another player. You're the one setting the rules. This is the silent power. No shouting, no drama, no theatrics. Just the quiet certainty that you can stand alone if you must, and that those who matter will stand with you. The final truth is simple. Respect is not a prize given by others. It's a reflection of the control you hold over yourself. And when you reach this point, when you no longer need the world validation, you become something rare, not just respected, but untouchable.